So welcome to the Grand Rapids Label video blog series. This is our video blog series that focuses on innovation discussions as they surround the industrial durable label space. I'm Bill Bergstrom, Vice President of Sales and Marketing here at Grand Rapids Label, a centuries old converter of labels based here in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And today we are super excited and honored to have Rob Dwortz from a great company here in Western Michigan called Become Unmistakable join us today. I'm going to give Rob an opportunity to tell us about himself and about Become Unmistakable in a second, but I do want to set this up a little bit. So if you're a viewer of these in the past, you know we call them innovation discussions, and we use horizons of time to unpack innovation in whatever the topic is today. Today, we're really kind of surrounding the human capital management world, and that's where Become Unmistakable comes in. Talking about leadership development, we're talking about, Rob, your words, a right-brained approach to a workplace that drives purpose and belonging. I don't want to steal all your thunder, but the reason why we're having that conversation, you go, why is a label company talking about this? Well, we want to be able to provide the viewer with a well-rounded value from us as an organization. But we're in just wild times right now, disruptive times, a word that potentially is overused, and lots of factors, whether it's supply chain or inflation or our human capital and our human talent. So that's why we wanted to bring Rob here. Rob, thank you for spending a few minutes. I'll be quiet. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us a little bit about Become Unmistakable, and then we'll start to kind of unpack this bigger question about employee engagement, employee satisfaction, employee retention, development, and all those kinds of topics.
Well, thanks, Bill. First of all, thanks for having me on. And as you know, I'm a big fan of Grand Rapids Label. And while you're century plus old, we're 4 years old, right? So we're on the other end of the spectrum, a newer company in Western Michigan, but run by people that are not so new, right? So Become Unmistakable was really a collaboration of CEOs from industries, including banking, construction, technology, primarily, that came together around a common purpose, which is creating this right brain approach to leadership so that we can create purposeful, meaningful work for employees. We're very much about being employee-centric and building cultures that support it. So we're a dozen people right here in Western Michigan. We have clients all over the country. And I'm losing track of what my question is, Bill. So come back to me.
I hadn't really asked one yet, right? And that's what this is.
Good.
This is just a discussion, right? And so again, for the viewer, what we're trying to do is we package these as innovation discussions. And again, we're in a world that we're in a tight labor market right now, Rob. I think we would agree with that, especially when it comes to manufacturing. You use the word culture already. Culture as a differentiator, and both for the employee experience, but also potentially for the customer experience, the client experience, where culture makes a difference there. And so that is what we want to unpack. And we want to provide the viewer with an opportunity to say, hey, I'm kind of maybe feeling some of these things. Let's hear what Rob's ideas are. And again, we're going to do it against horizons like current state, maybe some immediate short-term things to think about on the human capital management side, 1 to 2 years out. And then we'll look at maybe 4 or 5, and then we'll probably stop there. That'll be about the time. So let's start with kind of current state of the employee experience, for lack of a better word, right? Rob, you speak to people all over the country. You get all kinds of feedback. You have all kinds of data points on what employees are feeling in the workplace. Help us understand that as we sit here today.
Okay, so there's a ton to unpack there. And I guess the backdrop I'll share is that we do our own research. So for the past 3 years, we've gone out and done multi-generational surveys trying to understand how people are experiencing the workplace. Obviously, the pandemic had a pretty big impact on that. And so one of the first things that I would unpack is that generations feel very differently about the work experience as you go through across the spectrum. People like me who grew up in the command and control type of leadership philosophy. That doesn't work for the generations that come after it. These people, the Gen Z and millennial crowd, are far more in need of feedback, recognition, belonging, and a sense of purpose, right, with their work. So that's something that is 100% the state of the marketplace today. And we're seeing people leave at very high levels. And there's tons of research that goes on around the country that would support that as well. Our most recent research showed that in the past 12 months, and we just released it in August, so it's pretty fresh, 38% of the 1,200 people we surveyed had left their positions over the previous 12 months. And so that is, very much happening. And they're really focused on a couple of things. One is toxic culture as a reason for leaving, but they're going places, not as much anymore for just money, which was something that happened during the pandemic for sure. But they are really searching opportunities for belonging and tying that concept of belonging to meaningful development opportunities for themselves, right? And meaningful is a really important element of that. So we see development really coming to the forefront. We see generational differences loud and clear with the experience. And then the one other thing about the current state that I would say was loud and clear in our research and in the dozens of companies around the country that we work very closely with is that managers are in a very serious crisis. I mentioned 38% of the 1,200 had turned over in the last 12 months. When you take a look at the managers, and especially senior managers, the numbers rise north of 50%, 56% of senior managers that we talked to, and it was in the hundreds, so it was approaching 400, had taken new positions in the last 12 months. And the reason is they're just not supported. They're dealing with a really dynamic environment where some people are working at home, some are working in office, some are a combination of the two, and they're stuck with delivering culture and vision and support and coaching and all of these things to a very dynamic workforce without the tools and the training to do it. And so I'll pause right there because there's a lot more we can unpack about why, but I'll give you a chance to respond to that.
Yeah, and so let's keep going, right? Again, we don't prepare a ton. I don't float all these questions to you, so I'll give you a chance to react. But a couple of things. One is your data's pretty diverse in regards to industry.
It is.
Right. You're seeing this type of data, whether it's traditional, like service industry or manufacturing industry or otherwise. You're seeing these same these same kind of characteristics that
Absolutely.
are out there. And so that's interesting. And then you talk about the support there, right? Like of managers, because again, a lot of people that are going to listen to this video blog are in that kind of middle leadership role within an organization. So can you dive into that part of it a little bit more? This idea of like, whoa, I'm getting all these inputs and I don't quite know what to do, and so I'm kind of uncomfortable, and so I'm out of here. Like, how do we get there?
Well, first of all, the responsibility hasn't changed. Right? The responsibility to manage people, to connect to your people, and keep your people still sits firmly in the lap of that middle manager. Okay. One of the problems is most of the people that find themselves in that position, especially if you're a company with, say, fewer than 10,000 employees, is the reason you're in that management position is because you were really good as an individual contributor and you got promoted. You're great at your job. Let's put a manager title in your lap. But what it doesn't come with is a lot of the sometimes hard skills. Those are maybe more available, but a lot of times the soft skills that you need to really connect with people, to understand what success means to them, who they want to become, and all the inputs that you need to have a really successful and supportive coaching experience that also comes alongside accountability, because we all have to do our jobs. right? We have to be able to produce and deliver success from the organization's standpoint as well. So these folks are often without the tools, without the training, to give them the confidence to deliver, and that creates a really disjointed experience. And I think anyone listening to this, if anyone has really looked at employee dynamics at all, the most important relationship in any organization is the manager-employee relationship. That defines the experience. And if you don't have a good one, you're very likely to lose those people, and it's incredibly expensive to replace them and difficult to find, especially in manufacturing.
So I love that comment, right? I've used it before personally, right? People don't quit people, they quit jobs, they quit people, right? And that relationship with the manager is incredibly important. So let's admit, as we, in theory, put the pandemic further and further in the rearview mirror, there are things that we've learned during that period of time that we might be able to apply, kind of right away, for lack of a better word, right? We're not too far. What are we in November? We're not too far away from 2023. So if I'm feeling some of the things that you've mentioned, what do I do? What do I do in 2023? What are two or three things, right? Because if we get too broad, then it gets too broad. What are maybe one or two or three things that in the next year or 18 months, someone that's in this world kind of feeling this pressure, for lack of a better word, could be doing to help themselves, but also, of course, to help the people that they're responsible for managing and getting performance out of?
So I love the question. I'm going to go directly to our research, which was quite tangible in its findings.
Okay.
One of the things that we found is that for the in-person cohort of people that we surveyed, right, those that were work from work 100% of the time,
like a manufacturing facility where
like
you might be a little higher or a little more likely to find that. Okay, fair enough.
So we learned very specifically that people in the in-person environment are craving and say they lack recognition more than those that are outside. So we use this term proximity as a crutch. Often when we're working together, we don't necessarily stop and take the time to say, slap you on the back, you're doing a great job, keep up the great work, etc. Because you're right here, we've got this tight relationship, we don't need to go further. That's a mistake. Similarly, if you have people that are outside of your office, recognition is not that big of a deal from our data, but feedback is. They want constructive feedback. How can they do their jobs better? So they're actually looking, you could use the word criticism, that's a little harsh, but they want real feedback, real performance feedback on a very regular basis. So over communicate because they're not there. Okay, so those people, and it's not about recognition, it's about help me do my job better because I'm not there to see you every single day. So those are a couple of things that people can use. The other that I would tell you is that we've done a fair amount of work around mental health, around asking people, how impactful is mental health? Are you concerned about it? People in the in-person environment are the most concerned about it. That really? More concerned.
You would think that would be flipped, right?
You would think, yeah. I did. I was surprised by it. But then when we dug in deeper and started reading more about independent research, we did find that remote work is actually one of the things that people look for as an antidote to mental health issues. The more flexibility, the more remote work that they can have helps their mental health. Another thing that we found in our research that you could use is men are the most unlikely to even utter the words mental health as a problem. There are many cohorts, younger people, female workers, but male workers by far and away were less willing to even mention or admit that mental health could play a role. So if you're one of us and you are managing people, please make space, right? Make it known that you can have conversations about that.
That is interesting, and again, I said we don't I don't float all the questions, so I didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
And that's also interesting about the remote work looking for, because I have read those articles about like, okay, hey, if I elect to work from home, or even a hybrid type environment? Do I lose that opportunity to connect as it comes to like promotion opportunities or career advancement, career pathing opportunities, because I am maybe missing out on some of those hallway conversations after a meeting or something of that nature. So that's interesting that people are actually taking that and saying, okay, if I'm not going to benefit from the hallway conversation, I have to find another outlet. Am I interpreting that correctly?
I think you are, and there's more information and more conversations, so the data and anecdotal that lead us to another conclusion.
Okay.
And that is, we ask people many different things, but one of the things we asked employees is, what do you wish your manager knew about you? Okay. And keep in mind that I mentioned at the very opening about the importance of meaningful development opportunities. That's what many people, one of the highest reasons that people go to and join another company is for meaningful development opportunities, that it contributes very directly to a sense of belonging. Well, the things that people said they were most missing, one was meaningful development opportunities from their managers, missing specifically from their managers. And they said, I wish my manager knew my professional goals, my unique skills and abilities, and my learning style. The three things that a manager would need to know in order to give a meaningful development opportunity to their people. Wow. And so it's been really interesting. So what people can do as they head into 2023 is double down on recognition for the people that are in your office, double down on feedback for the people that may not always be in your office, and find a way to understand your people at a deeper level, where they want to go professionally, personally too is great, what their skills are, and what their learning styles are. Very specific, it comes directly from our data, in order to create a more meaningful experience for them. And I will tell you, if you do that, you will also drive a lot more performance in the business.
Yeah, gosh, Rob, so like that, again, I think about that from a manufacturing standpoint, and I think it's easy to diminish the value of what you just said. I think it can be easy to diminish the value of what you just said and think, like my press operator, does he or she really want to have that conversation? And I think the answer is yes. Like, yes, totally. They absolutely do. So this idea that only happens in a certain environment or in a certain role or responsibility within the organization just isn't true, right?
So if I can, I hate to interrupt, but can I share a story?
Sure, of course.
Really quick, one of my favorite stories for the business, the work that we do, is from a manufacturing company, and not just a very skeptical manufacturing company around what we do, but they had a particular leader within their maintenance department in the big manufacturing facility, and they thought, if this is going to get legs, we need Andy to go see if it has legs. Okay. And so Andy would be a prototypical guy's guy, former Marine, did not enjoy the soft stuff at all. Long story short, he turned out to be one of our biggest supporters and evangelists. He took our approach, our software, the things that we do. He went through our leadership training, and he developed one of the most incredible cultures within that manufacturing environment with his maintenance staff. And he measured the results in turnover, productivity, absenteeism, and he had all the graphs, and he supported it with his overall organization. And of course, they've done more since now, but it was a really interesting and exciting thing for us to experience, because when you invest in machinery and equipment, it's not always obvious that the people matter so much. I know they do. And solid cultures in any industry will compete based on the quality of their people. That is always the most valuable asset, even though it walks in and out of the door every day.
Well, wow. So amazing things to think about. And again, thank you for summarizing, because we'll push this a little bit here, right? So I'm starting to tick some of those boxes, right? Rob, I'm doing a better job of connecting on a personal level. maybe I've implemented a few recognition ideas that I wasn't in the past, and I'm trying to get better with feedback loops and so on and so forth. Where's this all headed? Do you have any feel from your conversations and again, your speaking engagements and all the folks that you talk about, that as we get even further away from this pandemic demarcation that we're all going to live with for the rest of our lives, does it look different 4 years from now? Does some of those fundamentals no doubt remain the same, but how does it continue to evolve? Do you have any feel for that?
Yeah, I do, because, well, it's what we believe and where we're going as a business. And I think, as you know, Bill, our business is HR technology, right? We have a software platform and a leadership platform training, and we do, a bunch of things around that. Where our business is going is in the employee well-being area, because that is what the horizon looks like. And is performance management important? Of course it is. Is culture important? I use air quotes because it means something different to everyone who utters the word, right? But where employee built well-being lives, it's at the confluence of personal and professional, because it's blended like crazy with the way we're working today, most places. And so organizations that can support both within their employee base, I believe, are going to win. And so you see a lot of things coming out where you blend, where you learn more about what people want to accomplish personally and help support that as an organization, because it's a way to connect people to each other and to your organization in a way that's much, much more meaningful to them, and then make them obviously less likely to leave. But it also goes very directly into the rising mental health issues we're seeing in the workplace. So we see apps, and we're using and incorporating some of these things ourselves that help people reflect and share gratitude, to set personal goals, even little micro changes that they can adopt, and habits in their lives to make them healthier people. It makes them better at work, without question. And the data is coming out that supports how important well-being is to performance and organizational performance. It's not just the right thing to do, but it's really something that's going to drive outcomes and will drive the talent wars that there unfortunately are winners and losers in.
I've got, so with that in mind, I've got, and we'll keep an eye on the clock here, but I do have a question for you.
Yeah.
How, and we can wrap up on this, and again, maybe you can kind of summarize with some of the key points that you've made here. But a company with like a clear sense of vision and a clear sense of purpose as a company, right? Like whether it's revolving around the sustained financial performance of the organization, or maybe even something like environmental impact or corporate citizenry and wherever they may be based. Yeah. Like, how does that connect that to, again, that employee and that personalization process? If you can, in the next 90 seconds or so, sure. Because that, I feel, is an interesting component of where we're all headed to with, again, what my company might look like in 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, ESG plans, corporate social responsibility, all of those things. The way that I would comment on those is twofold. One is something that we do weekly, and another that we do and train quarterly. Okay, the first is to tie values. So I hope that every organization that is out there today has adopted a set of values that they do literally live by, right? They hire and fire by them. We are a values-driven organization. Every single week in our team meetings, we are recognizing different people for living the values the week before. So it's a part of our regular cadence and operating culture. So we're trying to reinforce those values. And so, it could be around corporate social responsibility, the way we treat each other, however it goes. Similarly, those same values, those same high-level goals really should be a part of your coaching conversations that cannot only occur once a year. You really need to coach people much more frequently, given the data that I shared earlier, but just in general. If you want real-time performance, you want real-time accountability, you want the behaviors that really drive culture and performance, you have to have conversations regularly. Have them at least monthly, quarterly, again, at least, and incorporate those values in those conversations. How are you living those in your life here?
And they're actual topics of conversation, correct?
They are. Yeah. Actual topics of conversation. And in our, like the way we work in our software, they're written down.
Yeah.
And they're part of a conversation that lives.
Right. They're not implied. You're not hoping somebody can read your mind, those types of things.
Yeah. They're very direct.
Yeah. Very direct. Rob, unbelievable, right? I'm a huge fan of this topic in general. So you and I could go for a long time on these types of topics. Some true meat on the bone. Again, maybe 60 seconds. Wrap it up in a bow for us, right? Recognition, right?
Recognize people who are under your roof. Give feedback to people who are not under your roof. Invest in the tools that you need to get to know your people at a depth where you understand how they define success, and then coach them, right? And have the tools and training for your managers in order to coach them on a regular basis that goes across both personal and professional, so that you support well-being. And if you can put those together in your operating culture and make it, a part of your fabric, you will win the talent war. I guarantee you'll corner it in your space.
And don't be, and then I'll add my 2 cents. Don't be afraid to connect those things directly to the vision and mission of the organization.
100%. Yeah.
Rob, I can't thank you enough. Truly, I think the world of you and your company. So thanks for taking a few minutes. Certainly lots for the viewer of this to chew on. And man, we're in a wild world going forward. So every little bit helps, right? And thank you very, very much.
Well, thank you for doing many of the things that I just talked about. I know the label company's built a fantastic culture there. So appreciate you having me.
Thank you. We'll talk soon.